Chapter 1. The Jewel of Cambodia from afar. Beyond the dense tropical jungle, towers of stone rise toward the blue sky like sacred mountain peaks. As you draw closer, the scene gradually unfolds. A majestic, awe-inspiring structure, both mysterious and divine, as if it does not truly belong to this world. This is Angkor Wat, the jewel of Cambodia, the pride of its people, and one of the greatest wonders humanity has ever created. If Egypt is famed for its enigmatic pyramids in the endless desert, and China takes pride in the mighty Great Wall, then Cambodia claims Angkor Wat, a cultural, spiritual, and architectural icon worthy of standing beside those timeless masterpieces. More than just a religious monument, Angkor Wat is a testament to extraordinary creativity, engineering brilliance, and the relentless labor of tens of thousands of people. A national emblem, pride of a people. It is no coincidence that Angkor Wat's silhouette is emblazoned on the Cambodian national flag. The three central towers, rising with regal grace against the red-blue background, represent not only religion and history, but also the unshakable pride of the Khmer nation. Each glance at the flag is a reminder of the priceless heritage left by their ancestors, a symbol of the golden era when the Khmer Empire was among the most resplendent civilizations in Asia, a scale that stuns the world. Angkor Wat covers an astounding 1.6 million square meters, over 162.6 hectares, and is officially recognized as the largest religious monument in the world. And this is only a fraction of the greater Angkor complex, which spans hundreds of square kilometers and includes hundreds of temples, large and small. Within this vast expanse, Angkor Thom, the ancient capital of the Khmer Empire, stands alongside other grand structures. But Angkor Wat itself commands the deepest admiration. With its moats, walls, corridors, courtyards, central tower, and countless carvings, every element is arranged in perfect harmony, blending monumental scale with graceful design. 3 levels, a symbol of the universe. The central temple of Angkor Wat is designed as a rectangular structure with 3 ascending levels, each connected by long, narrow corridors. The lowest level, once home to water basins now dry, reserved for the king's bathing, and galleries adorned with bas-reliefs depicting epic stories and Hindu myths. The second level, representing the earthly realm, housing sanctuaries to Vishnu made of black stone, and lined with thousands of apsara carvings, celestial dancers, each with unique poses, costumes, and expressions. The third level, regarded as heaven, this highest tier rises to 65 meters, crowned by a central tower, surrounded by 4 smaller towers, symbolizing the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, the cosmic center of the Hindu universe. Where engineering meets art, Angkor Wat impresses not just by its vastness, but by the extraordinary detail in its artistry. Over 3,000 apsara reliefs are rendered so vividly that even the folds of their garments, the curl of their hair, and the glint in their eyes seem alive. Walls stretching hundreds of meters are covered with depictions of battles, ceremonies, and the great Hindu epics, the Ramayana and Mahabharata, reflecting the religion, history, and cultural life of the ancient Khmer. The massive stone blocks are fitted together with such precision that the seams are nearly invisible. Remarkably, much of the carving was done after the stones had been placed in position, a testament to the builder's unmatched skill in both construction and sculpture. A structure that defies time. Nearly 9 centuries have passed, bringing wars, natural decay, and political upheaval. Yet Angkor Wat still stands, almost entirely intact. This enduring resilience has left scholars, especially early Western visitors, astounded, wondering how could the Khmer people of that era create such perfection without the aid of modern technology. In 1586, Portuguese missionary Antonio de Magdalena, upon first beholding Angkor Wat, declared it a work impossible to describe with words and unlike anything else in the world. The harmony of perfection. What makes Angkor Wat truly a jewel is not merely its size, but its perfect balance. From the overall layout down to the smallest decorative element, every detail adheres to symmetry and proportion. The temple's main axes are aligned precisely to the east-west direction, integrating astronomical and spiritual principles, creating a space that is both majestic and mysterious. Long corridors stretch into the distance, steep stairways angle sharply at nearly 45 degrees, and open courtyards reveal the sky in breathtaking frames, each feature shaping an experience unlike any other place on Earth, a living symbol today. Angkor Wat is not only one of the world's most visited tourist destinations, but also a spiritual heart for Cambodians. Millions journey here each year to admire, study, and simply feel the magnetic pull of a timeless masterpiece. This jewel still stands, silently telling its story through every block of stone and every chiseled detail. But that story is only the prologue, for behind its radiant beauty lie countless mysteries, unanswered questions about its origins, the methods of its construction, and the knowledge the ancients may have possessed, knowledge that seems far ahead of their time. Chapter 2. The official origin and rising doubts for centuries. The accepted historical account has been that Angkor Wat was commissioned by King Surya Varman II, ruler of the Khmer Empire, from 1113 to 1145. This period is often portrayed as the pinnacle of Khmer power, a time of territorial expansion, political stability, and architectural ambition. According to royal chronicles and inscriptions, Surya Varman II ordered the construction of Angkor Wat as a grand temple dedicated to Vishnu, the Hindu god of preservation, marking a shift from the Shaivite tradition, worship of Shiva, that had dominated earlier Khmer temples. This narrative is straightforward and tidy. It credits a known monarch with a monumental achievement and aligns with the Khmer Empire, this golden age in the early 12th century. Yet the deeper scholars, explorers, and modern researchers look, the more cracks appear in this neatly packaged story. The puzzling simplicity of the king's commemoration. One of the most glaring oddities lies in how King Surya Varman II is depicted within the complex. Among the thousands of exquisitely detailed bas-reliefs, only one modest depiction of the king has been found. It is small, plain, and far less intricate than the surrounding carvings. This feels wrong. If a ruler truly masterminded one of the largest and most sophisticated architectural feats in human history, wouldn't his image be prominently and elaborately immortalized? Wouldn't he be celebrated with grandeur equal to the structure itself? The lone, almost humble portrayal of Surya Varman II seems oddly disproportionate to the achievement he is credited with. The disparity in craftsmanship across eras. Another red flag emerges when comparing the quality of stonework between Angkor Wat and other Khmer temples built just decades later, under King Jayavarman VII in the late 12th and early 13th centuries. Monumental projects like the Bayon Temple and parts of Angkor Thom were constructed. While these are remarkable in their own right, their stone joints are rougher, the carvings less refined, and the structural precision notably inferior to Angkor Wat's flawless execution. It is as if the Khmer Empire lost centuries' worth of architectural skill in less than a generation, a phenomenon that makes little sense. Advanced building techniques typically erode slowly over time, not collapse in the span of a few decades. The problem of resources. There's also the issue of logistics and resources. The Khmer Empire in the early 12th century was certainly powerful, but was it powerful enough to marshal the staggering manpower, materials, and time needed to create Angkor Wat? Consider the numbers. Historians estimate that Angkor Wat required at least 10 million cubic meters of stone. These sandstone blocks were quarried from the Kulen Mountains, some 80 kilometers away, and each weighed up to 1.5 tons. Transporting, shaping, and placing them with the precision we see today would be a monumental task, even with modern machinery. In comparison, the Forbidden City in Beijing, one of the great architectural achievements of world history, took 14 years to build in the 15th century, with over 1 million laborers and 100,000 artisans. Despite being less than half the footprint of Angkor Wat, could the Khmer, with the technology of the 1100s, truly have achieved their masterpiece in just 35 to 37 years as claimed? Historical context. A waning empire. Perhaps most surprising of all is the broader political context. While Surya Varman's reign was indeed a high point in some respects, the Khmer Empire was already facing growing pressures. Border conflicts with Viet, present-day Vietnam, and Cambodia to the east strained resources. In fact, historical accounts suggest Surya Varman II suffered defeats in his later years, including a failed invasion of Viet in 1145. It raises a simple but unsettling question. Could an empire engaged in costly military campaigns, with its ruler facing significant challenges, really have diverted enough wealth, manpower, and focus to construct the most ambitious temple complex on Earth? Echoes of an older legacy. Some researchers have suggested that Suryavarman II may not have built Angkor Wat from scratch, but rather restored, expanded, or repurposed an existing, far older structure. This idea could explain several puzzling details: why the craftsmanship at Angkor Wat is unmatched by later Khmer works, why the king's commemoration within the temple is so understated, why logistical and technological challenges seem insurmountable for a 12th century project. In this hypothesis, Angkor Wat may have been a relic from an earlier civilization, perhaps one predating the known Khmer Empire, and Suryavarman II's role was more that of a renovator or rededicator than a creator, a challenge to conventional history. Of course, suggesting that the official story might be incomplete or even wrong is not without controversy. Mainstream archaeology prefers evidence that can be securely dated and attributed through inscriptions, stylistic analysis, and written records, and Angkor Wat does bear inscriptions and iconography consistent with early 12th century Khmer art. Yet, inconsistencies remain, enough to keep alternative theories alive. For every inscription linking the temple to Suryavarman II, there are unexplained anomalies in construction methods, architectural precision, and artistic quality that hint at deeper mysteries. The question that won't go away. The more one examines Angkor Wat, the harder it becomes to shake a lingering question. What if the Khmer Empire did not build this entire complex? What if they inherited something from a forgotten era and adapted it to their religion, politics, and cultural expression? This possibility opens the door to a radically different understanding of Southeast Asian history, one in which Angkor Wat is not merely the pinnacle of Khmer civilization, but also a window into a much older, possibly far more advanced past. For now, the official narrative remains the one most often told to visitors and students. Suryavarman II, visionary king of the Khmer, conceived and completed Angkor Wat in his lifetime. But beneath that story lies a growing body of doubts, evidence, and speculation, threads that lead us deeper into the labyrinth of this temple's true origins. Chapter 3. The marvel of its design and structure. To walk through the gates of Angkor Wat is to step into a world meticulously crafted to mirror the cosmos itself. Every line, every angle, every carving appears to have been conceived not merely for aesthetic beauty, but to embody a profound spiritual vision. This is not a random collection of stones and towers. It is an architectural map of the Hindu universe, carved into sandstone on a scale so vast that it defies ordinary comprehension. A fortress and a temple approaching from the outside. The first thing one encounters is the enclosing moat, a man-made waterway nearly 200 meters wide, stretching in perfect symmetry around the temple. This moat not only served a defensive purpose but symbolized the cosmic ocean that surrounds Mount Meru, the mythic axis of the universe in Hindu cosmology. Crossing the causeway over this moat leads to outer walls measuring 3.6 kilometers in perimeter. These walls rise from the earth like the ramparts of an eternal fortress, separating the sacred realm within from the mundane world without. A three-tiered journey to the divine inside. The temple ascends in 3 distinct levels, each representing a higher plane of existence. The journey from the first level to the central sanctuary is both a physical climb and a spiritual ascent. First level, the earthly realm. Here, visitors walk along endless galleries lined with bas-reliefs. These carvings, stretching hundreds of meters, depict scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata, the churning of the ocean of milk, celestial battles, and processions of deities. It is a universe of stone in motion, gods and demons, kings and warriors, each rendered in astonishing detail. Second level, the transitional realm. Ascending steep stairways, one enters courtyards and sanctuaries dedicated to Vishnu. Thousands of Apsara dancers adorn the walls, each with a distinct pose, hairstyle, and expression. These celestial maidens are carved with such delicacy that even after centuries of erosion, the grace of their features remains intact. Third level, the realm of the gods. The highest terrace rises 65 meters above the ground, crowned by the central tower surrounded by 4 smaller towers. Together, they symbolize the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, the cosmic mountain at the center of all existence. The air here feels thinner, the space more intimate, as if one has truly ascended into the realm of the divine. Steep stairs, sacred challenge. The staircases leading to the upper terraces are nearly vertical, some at a 45-degree incline. This was no accident. The steepness forces pilgrims to bow forward as they climb. an act of humility before the gods, it also creates an unmistakable psychological effect. Reaching the summit feels like a hard-won reward, reinforcing the sacredness of the space. Perfect symmetry and cosmic alignment. One of Angkor Wat's most striking features is its flawless symmetry. The temple's design follows a precise grid, with perfect balance between left and right, front and back. This symmetry is more than aesthetic. It is cosmological, reflecting the order of the universe itself. The main axis is aligned exactly to the west, an unusual choice for Khmer temples, which are typically oriented east. Scholars believe this alignment may be connected to its dedication to Vishnu, who is often associated with the west, or to serve as a funerary temple for Surya Varman II. At certain times of the year, the sun rises or sets directly over the central tower, a celestial event that transforms the temple into a living calendar of stone. Mastery of material and technique. The temple is built primarily of sandstone blocks, some weighing over 1.5 tons, transported from quarries in the Kulen Mountains more than 80 kilometers away. The stones are fitted so precisely that even today, without mortar, many joints remain seamless. Evidence suggests that the builders assembled the massive blocks first, and then carved intricate designs directly into place, a method that required extraordinary planning, coordination, and craftsmanship. The enigma of the galleries deep within the temple are chambers and corridors whose acoustic properties remain mysterious. In certain halls, a soft hum or echo resonates when one speaks or claps, as though the stone itself is singing. Whether this was intentional, perhaps to enhance chanting or ritual music, or a remarkable accident of design, it adds yet another layer to Angkor Wat's mystique, a living museum of myth and history. Everywhere the eye turns, there is a story. In one gallery, gods and demons churn the ocean of milk, their hands gripping the serpent Vasuki, creating the elixir of immortality. In another, a line of celestial soldiers marches toward battle, their faces calm yet resolute. Each figure is unique. No two warriors, no two apsaras, no two deities are exactly alike. The scale of these works is staggering. More than 800 meters of continuous bas-reliefs, each panel a masterpiece in its own right. It is as if the builders sought to condense the entire spiritual and cultural universe of their people into one single monument, a testament beyond time. In its design and structure, Angkor Wat is both a temple and a map of the cosmos, a fortress and a gallery, a work of engineering and a work of art. Every element, from the towering spires to the smallest, chiseled lotus petal, speaks of a civilization that sought not just to honor the gods, but to embody the divine order in stone. Yet, for all its grandeur, the temple still raises questions. How did the builders achieve such precision? Why does the craftsmanship here surpass that of every other Khmer monument? And perhaps most intriguing, if the official history is incomplete, what does the perfection of this design tell us about the knowledge and intentions of its true creators? Chapter 4. The Impossible Engineering Challenge. The more one studies Angkor Wat, the more it becomes clear. This was not just a work of devotion, but a feat of engineering so audacious that even with today's tools, it would test the limits of our abilities. The scale of the task, the precision of the craftsmanship, and the logistics of material transport all conspire to make the temple's construction seem, at times, almost impossible for the 12th century. The sheer volume of stone. To appreciate the challenge, we must first confront the numbers. Angkor Wat contains an estimated 10 million cubic meters of sandstone, quarried from the Kulen Mountains more than 80 kilometers away. Individual blocks weigh up to 1.5 tons, yet they fit together so tightly that in many places, the seams are invisible to the naked eye. Modern heavy machinery can lift, transport, and position such stones with relative ease, but in the 1100s, without cranes, trucks, or steel tools, the process would have required immense manpower, ingenious techniques, and an extraordinary degree of organization. The compressed timeline historical tradition claims the temple was completed within 35 to 37 years. At first glance, this seems long, until one does the math. To move, shape, and place each block within that time frame, workers would have needed to position 1 ton of stone every single minute, day and night, for over 3 decades. Even if we imagine thousands of laborers working in coordinated shifts, the idea strains credibility. It suggests a logistical operation of military precision, sustained without interruption for a generation. something few ancient societies could have achieved. Comparison to other monuments. To put this into perspective, the Forbidden City in China, covering less than half the area of Angkor Wat, took 14 years to build with 1 million workers and 100,000 artisans. In the 15th century, with more advanced tools, the tomb of Kihon in Vietnam, a mere 5,674 square meters, required a tax increase across the country to fund, despite being minuscule compared to Angkor Wat. If such projects demanded immense national resources in later eras, how could a 12th century Khmer Empire, engaged in wars and far from its peak population, finance and sustain a project of this magnitude? The transportation enigma, moving the sandstone from the Kulin Mountains to Angkor, was an engineering problem in itself. Dragging the blocks over land for 80 kilometers through jungle terrain would have been slow, labor-intensive, and prone to losses. Yet, the builders not only accomplished this, but did so with a speed that allowed the temple to rise in just a few decades. How? In recent years, satellite imagery revealed an astonishing clue: a 32-kilometer-long man-made canal, running directly from the quarries toward the temple site. This was not a natural waterway, but an engineered transport route, part of an even larger network of channels and reservoirs, a river highway of stone. This canal, and others like it, would have allowed sandstone blocks to be floated downstream on rafts or boats, bypassing the difficulties of land transport. From the mountains to the Tonle Sap Lake, and from there up smaller rivers to Angkor, the route minimized friction and maximized speed. Japanese researcher Itsuo Uchida of Waseda University confirmed that the canal aligned with known quarry sites, and that blocks found along its length matched the sandstone used in Angkor Wat. Some sections of the canal still hold water today, while others have vanished under forest or farmland. The implication is clear. The Khmer engineers designed a purpose-built logistics system capable of feeding a continuous supply of stone to the construction site. Yet the problem remains. Even with this ingenious canal system, the numbers remain daunting. To place millions of blocks in 37 years still required an unprecedented rate of extraction, shaping, transport, and assembly. Modern engineers calculating the pace of such an operation with ancient tools often conclude it would take a century or more. This has led some to speculate. Perhaps Angkor Wat was not built entirely within a single reign, or perhaps it incorporated elements from older structures that predated the Khmer Empire. Precision beyond the possible. And then there is the craftsmanship. Many stones in Angkor Wat are joined so perfectly that a sheet of paper cannot slide between them. The angles, alignments, and symmetry are exact, even across massive spans and heights. Without modern surveying equipment, achieving this level of precision over such a vast area would require a mastery of measurement and planning far beyond what is documented for the time. An operation of unseen complexity. What emerges is the image of a project that was as much about logistics and coordination as it was about artistry and devotion. We are not looking at a simple temple construction. We are looking at a civilization-scale infrastructure project requiring a vast labor force fed, housed, and organized with military discipline, a specialized transport system linking quarries, rivers, and building sites, advanced architectural planning and surveying techniques, continuous resource allocation over decades, despite wars and political shifts. It is this combination of scale, speed, and precision that pushes Angkor Wat from the realm of impressive human achievement into something that feels at times borderline impossible. In the next chapter, we will see that the challenge of construction is only part of the mystery, for scattered throughout the temple are carvings, alignments, and artistic choices that suggest knowledge far beyond what the Khmer of the 12th century should have possessed, raising the possibility that Angkor Wat is not merely a masterpiece of its era, but a legacy from a far older, perhaps unknown civilization. Chapter 5. The mysterious transport network and clues from the sky. The engineering challenge of Angkor Wat is already staggering, but when modern science began to investigate how the sandstone reached the site, the story deepened into something even more extraordinary. Buried beneath centuries of forest growth and farmland, hidden from view until the age of satellite imaging, lay the traces of a transport network that was as ambitious as the temple itself. The 32-kilometer canal. For years, historians puzzled over the logistics of moving sandstone blocks weighing up to 1.5 tons from the Kulin Mountains, some 80 kilometers away, Overland transport across dense jungle would have been painfully slow and dangerous. But in 2012, Japanese researcher Etsuo Ukeda of Waseda University, studying high-resolution satellite imagery, identified a startling feature: a straight, man-made canal stretching over 32 kilometers from the quarries toward the temple. This canal was not a random waterway. It was engineered with purpose, perfectly aligned to connect the source of the stone to the heart of the Khmer capital. The more the team studied, the more they realized it was part of a larger, integrated water management system, a highway of water. By combining satellite data with on-the-ground surveys, Ukeda and his colleagues discovered that the sandstone likely traveled in a series of stages. From the quarries at Panam Kulan, blocks were brought to the canal. Rafts or boats carried them downstream, toward the Tonle Sap Lake. From the lake, they followed smaller rivers, toward Angkor's core. Finally, they were hauled by manpower or simple sledges into place at the construction site. This aquatic highway bypassed much of the rugged terrain and drastically shortened transport time compared to dragging stones over land. In some surviving segments, the canal still holds water today. In others, it has been reclaimed by forest or agriculture. A system beyond a single temple. The canal was not just for Angkor Wat. Archaeological surveys revealed over 50 quarry sites along its route, suggesting it supplied stone for multiple structures across the Khmer capital. This means the Khmer weren't simply building one great monument. They were running a continuous industrial supply chain for a city of temples, reservoirs, and public works. Such complexity indicates a level of civil engineering and logistical management comparable to the great hydraulic civilizations of history, like the Romans or the ancient Chinese. The clues in the sky, while Ukeda's team mapped the canal from space. Other researchers began noticing something even stranger. From aerial and satellite imagery, Angkor Wat and several other ancient sites appear to be aligned in ways that echo global patterns. Some researchers point to ley lines, hypothetical alignments connecting ancient monuments across vast distances. Though controversial in mainstream archaeology, satellite mapping has shown that Angkor Wat lies almost exactly on a great circle path that also passes through the Great Pyramids of Egypt, the Nazca Lines in Peru, and Easter Island. The positional deviation is less than 1/10 of a degree of latitude. Whether coincidence or deliberate design, this alignment raises uncomfortable questions. How could a 12th century Southeast Asian civilization have placed its masterpiece in such precise global correlation with monuments thousands of kilometers away? A city designed from above the greater Angkor complex, more than 1,000 square kilometers, was not haphazardly arranged. From the air, it reveals geometric precision, moats and reservoirs forming perfect rectangles, causeways aligned with solstices, and temple axes locked to cardinal points. Some of these features, invisible at ground level, seem almost as if they were meant to be seen from the sky, a perspective ancient Khmer builders could not have had, unless they possessed surveying techniques far beyond what is assumed for the era. Efficiency on an impossible scale. If the Khmer did indeed build the 32-kilometer canal specifically for Angkor Wat, then they accomplished in just a few years what could have otherwise taken decades. The canal not only carried stone but may have served as a lifeline for transporting food, timber, and other materials to support the massive labor force working on the temple. This efficiency, however, creates a paradox. If they could design such a sophisticated system for transport and supply, why do we see such a stark drop in quality in temples built just decades later? Could it be that the canal system, and the knowledge behind it, was inherited from an even earlier civilization? The shadow of an older knowledge, the integration of water engineering, city planning, and temple alignment, hints at knowledge that feels older. Some elements of Angkor's hydraulic network appear to predate the Khmer Empire itself. If true, then the Khmer may have adapted, expanded, and repurposed a much older system, one that had been in place for centuries, perhaps even millennia, before Suryavarman II's reign. In that case, the construction of Angkor Wat might have been less about starting from nothing and more about reviving an ancient blueprint whose origins have been lost to history. In the next chapter we will confront evidence even more unsettling: the carvings, reliefs, and artistic details within Angkor Wat that seem to depict knowledge and creatures far beyond the reach of 12th century Cambodia. From extinct animals to modern inventions, that should not have existed for hundreds of years. Chapter 6. Impossible carvings and out-of-time knowledge. If the engineering and logistics of Angkor Wat defy belief, the artistic details carved into its walls open an even stranger chapter in the mystery. Beyond the thousands of Apsaras and mythological scenes, certain reliefs and motifs seem to depict knowledge, events, and even species that should have been entirely unknown to the Khmer of the 12th century. These anomalies have baffled historians, inspired fringe theories, and fueled speculation that Angkor Wat preserves fragments of a much older, perhaps forgotten human story, the telescope that shouldn't exist. One of the most puzzling discoveries comes from a panel depicting a battle between the gods, Vishnu and Indra. Among the warriors in Indra's retinue is a figure holding a long tubular object to his eye. Upon closer examination, it bears a striking resemblance to a telescope, complete with a flared eyepiece and straight barrel. The problem: the telescope is widely credited to Dutchman Hans Lippershey, who applied for a patent in 1608, nearly 500 years after Angkor Wat's construction. This raises uncomfortable possibilities. Did the Khmer somehow invent a primitive telescope centuries earlier? Was this an imported technology from an unknown source? Or was the relief simply copying an older image, preserving knowledge from a civilization that predated the Khmer entirely? Mapping the solar system. Before it was known elsewhere in the temple, a carving appears to depict the Hindu sun god, Surya, seated at the center, surrounded by 9 orbiting figures, with hands clasped in reverence. Some researchers have interpreted this as a symbolic representation of the solar system, including Neptune and Pluto. But here's the enigma. Neptune was discovered in 1846 and Pluto in 1930. Both are invisible to the naked eye without telescopic assistance. How could an artist in 12th century Cambodia have known to include them, much less place them correctly in a planetary arrangement? The elephant with 4 tusks. Perhaps the most startling anomaly is the carving of an elephant with 4 tusks. This creature is not part of Hindu mythology, but is a real species, the stegodon, which went extinct over 2 million years ago. Fossilized remains have been found in parts of Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, but were only identified by modern paleontology in the 19th century. How could Khmer artisans have known of its existence? Without excavations, photographs, or scientific reconstructions, the carving's accuracy suggests either direct observation of remains, or the preservation of a memory passed down from an unimaginably distant past. Not an isolated mystery, these out-of-time carvings are not unique to Angkor Wat. In India's 12th century temple of Osalaswara, similar anomalies exist, including another figure holding a telescope-like object. These parallel cases, separated by great distances, raise the possibility of a shared source of knowledge spanning cultures. It is almost as if both temples were drawing from the same inherited tradition, one with access to astronomical and zoological information far beyond the capabilities of their respective societies. Knowledge beyond the era. Mainstream historians tend to interpret these anomalies as either symbolic coincidences or artistic flourishes. Perhaps the telescope is just a ceremonial staff. Perhaps the 9 planets are symbolic deities. Perhaps the 4-tusked elephant is mythological. Yet, the precision of these depictions makes such explanations feel unsatisfying. The telescope shows a correct ergonomic pose. The planetary arrangement matches astronomical reality. The stegodon's proportions match fossil reconstructions. Either these are extraordinary coincidences, or they point toward a transmission of knowledge that challenges the established timeline of human discovery. A record from an older world. If Angkor Wat did inherit parts of its design or symbolism from an earlier civilization, then these carvings may be more than decoration. They could be echoes of ancient knowledge, encoded in art to survive the collapse of the culture that first discovered it. Perhaps, in a way, Angkor Wat functions like a time capsule, one that does not just preserve stone and structure, but fragments of an entire world view, a vision of the cosmos, the creatures that inhabited Earth long before us, and technologies that would not be rediscovered for centuries. In the next chapter, we will step back from the walls and carvings to view Angkor in its entirety, not just as a temple, but as the heart of a vast, sophisticated metropolis. Through satellite mapping and archaeological surveys, researchers have uncovered the scale of the ancient city that surrounded it, revealing that Angkor may have been the largest pre-industrial urban center the world has ever known. Chapter 7: Angkor Wat, and the world's largest ancient city for most visitors today. Angkor Wat stands as a solitary marvel, a temple in the jungle, a masterpiece isolated in grandeur. But new research over the last 2 decades has revealed that this perception is misleading. In its prime, Angkor Wat was not alone. It was the spiritual and ceremonial heart of the largest pre-industrial city in human history. A city hidden beneath the forest for centuries after the Khmer Empire's decline. The forests of Cambodia slowly reclaimed Angkor. By the time French explorers reached it in the 19th century, the temple complex was surrounded by thick jungle, with only hints of roads and moats visible. It wasn't until the early 2000s, with the advent of LiDAR light detection and ranging technology, that archaeologists could see through the vegetation. Mounted on aircraft, LiDAR sensors mapped the ground surface beneath the forest canopy, revealing an astonishing discovery. A sprawling urban landscape stretching over 1,000 square kilometers, interlaced with roads, canals, reservoirs, and neighborhood compounds. The megacity of Angkor. The data showed that Angkor was not a cluster of temples, but a complex, organized metropolis. At its height, between the 11th and 13th centuries, it may have supported 750,000 to 1 million inhabitants, a population larger than any European city of the time. Key features included an intricate hydraulic network, canals, moats, and reservoirs, barriers, designed to manage water for agriculture, transport, and flood control. Residential grids laid out with surprising regularity, showing deliberate urban planning. Industrial areas for ceramics, metallurgy, and stoneworking. Sacred and administrative centers connected by elevated roads and causeways. A hydraulic civilization. What set Angkor apart was its mastery of water. The Khmer engineers built a hydraulic city, using their canal system not only for transporting massive sandstone blocks, as discussed in Chapter 5, but also for sustaining year-round rice cultivation in an otherwise seasonal climate. The West Baray, for example, remains one of the largest man-made reservoirs in the world, to 8 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. This capacity to control and store water made the city resilient against droughts and capable of supporting its vast population. A capital unlike any other, if the LiDAR maps are accurate. Angkor was orders of magnitude larger than contemporary capitals like London, Paris, or Beijing. Yet, unlike dense stone-built cities, Angkor was spread out, with wooden houses, gardens, and rice paddies interwoven with monumental stone temples. This unique urban form may explain why so little remains of the living city today. Wood and thatch have long since rotted away, leaving only the temples as ghostly survivors of an empire's heartbeat. The paradox of scale and decline. The discovery of Angkor's immense size raises new questions about its decline. How could a civilization capable of organizing such vast resources and infrastructure collapse so completely? Historians suggest a combination of factors: prolonged droughts, followed by devastating floods in the 14th and 15th centuries, shifts in trade routes toward coastal ports, reducing the importance of inland capitals, political instability and warfare, including conflicts with neighboring Ayutthaya and Jivayat. Yet the speed and completeness of the abandonment remain mysterious, as if the city's lifeblood simply drained away, an inherited legacy. If, as some theories propose, Angkor Wat itself was built on foundations inherited from an earlier, advanced civilization, could the same be true for parts of the city? Some canals and reservoirs appear to predate the 12th century, their exact construction dates uncertain. This raises the possibility that the Khmer expanded upon a water management system they did not fully originate. Such a scenario would mean Angkor was a layered city, with multiple civilizations contributing over centuries. The Khmer Empire, merely being the last great steward before the jungle claimed it. A city written in water and stone. Today, as satellites and aerial mapping peel back the forest, we are beginning to glimpse Angkor as it truly was, not just a temple complex, but a capital of unprecedented scale, a metropolis designed as much in water as in stone. Its layout reflects the same principles seen in Angkor Wat: symmetry, cosmic alignment, and a blending of spiritual and practical design. It is as if the entire city was conceived as a sacred landscape, where every canal and reservoir served both earthly needs and celestial symbolism. In the next chapter, we will connect these revelations with an even stranger layer of mystery: the global alignments and possible ancient energy grids that link Angkor to some of the world's other most enigmatic monuments. This is where the theory of Earth's ley lines intersects with the Cambodian jungle, hinting that Angkor Wat may be part of something far larger than Southeast Asia alone. Chapter 8: Angkor Wat and the global grid of ancient monuments from the ground. Angkor Wat is a Cambodian treasure, the crowning jewel of the Khmer Empire. But from a global perspective, something far stranger emerges. When plotted on a map of the world, Angkor Wat aligns, with uncanny precision, with some of Earth's most mysterious ancient monuments. This pattern has led to one of the most controversial theories in alternative archaeology, that these sites form part of a deliberate, ancient global grid. The Great Circle Connection researchers studying what are often called ley lines, hypothetical alignments linking sacred and ancient sites, noticed that Angkor Wat lies almost exactly along a great circle path that also passes through the Great Pyramids of Giza in Egypt, the Nazca Lines in Peru, Easter Island with its colossal Moai statues, ancient Sumerian sites in Mesopotamia, the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley. The margin of error in this alignment is astonishingly small, less than 1/10 of a degree of latitude. Coincidence or design? Mainstream scholars tend to dismiss these global alignments as coincidences, the inevitable result of connecting enough points on a sphere. But for proponents of the theory, the alignment's precision and the monumental significance of the sites involved are too compelling to ignore. If the positioning was deliberate, it suggests the builders of these monuments shared a global knowledge of geography, the ability to map and measure the Earth with accuracy rivaling modern cartography. Such capability is not documented for any known civilization prior to the age of exploration. The energy grid hypothesis. Some researchers go further, proposing that these ancient monuments were placed along lines of natural energy, what they call Earth's energy meridians. In this view, the planet has a kind of electromagnetic lattice, and certain points along it are particularly powerful. According to this theory, structures like Angkor Wat, the pyramids, and Stonehenge were deliberately positioned to harness or resonate with these energies, for religious, astronomical, or even technological purposes lost to history. Alignment with the sky. The builders of Angkor Wat also embedded cosmic alignment into the temple itself. The main access points directly west, unusual for Khmer temples, and correlates with solar events. On the equinox, the sun sets directly over the central tower, an effect that would have required precise astronomical observation to design. Similar sky-ground connections exist at the other sites on the Great Circle. The Giza pyramids align with Orion's belt. The Nazca lines map constellations and solstices. Easter Island's Moai face specific celestial points. The implication: the builders of these widely separated sites may have shared not just earthly mapping skills, but an integrated worldview linking earth and sky, an echo of a forgotten age. If these alignments are intentional, they may point to a single ancient source of knowledge, a civilization or network of cultures that existed long before the historical record begins. This source could have passed down surveying techniques, astronomical knowledge, and even a philosophy of aligning sacred structures to both the heavens and the earth. As own geometry. Was Angkor Wat, then, simply the Khmer Empire's contribution to a much older tradition, or was it an intentional revival of a system whose original purpose has been lost? The Khmer's role, even if the Khmer inherited part of Angkor's placement from earlier builders, they clearly understood the power of alignment. Angkor Wat's position within the vast Angkor urban grid mirrors the same principles: symmetry, orientation to cardinal points, and integration with water as a symbolic ocean. In this way, the temple is both a Cambodian masterpiece and potentially a node in a planetary network of monuments, connected by a web of ancient knowledge that spans continents and millennia. The expanding mystery. Every new satellite survey and geospatial study seems to deepen the enigma. Are we seeing the remnants of a deliberate, global design, or are we imposing patterns where none exist? For now, the evidence is suggestive, but not conclusive. Still, the precision of these alignments remains one of the most tantalizing clues in the broader mystery of Angkor Wat's origins. In the next chapter, we will turn from the global scale back to the heart of the mystery, and confront the possibility that Angkor Wat, along with other monumental works, may not have been built entirely by the civilizations to which they are attributed. We will explore the theory that these are inheritances from a prehistoric, possibly non-human civilization, a notion that challenges the very foundations of our understanding of history. Chapter 9. The enduring mystery of Angkor Wat's true builders. After centuries of awe, study, and speculation, Angkor Wat still refuses to give up all its secrets. From the precision of its stonework to its place within a vast hydraulic city, from its possible connection to a global network of ancient monuments to the presence of carvings depicting impossible knowledge, each layer of evidence forces us to reconsider the official story of its origin, the official story, and its cracks. The prevailing narrative attributes Angkor Wat's construction to King Suryavarman II and the Khmer Empire in the early 12th century. By this account, the temple was the product of a highly organized society at the peak of its power, a triumph of engineering, devotion, and artistry. Yet, as we have seen, this story struggles to explain the breathtaking precision unmatched by later Khmer works, the speed and scale of construction, even with advanced logistics, like the 32-kilometer canal, the presence of carvings showing telescopes, extinct animals, and accurate planetary maps, the possible alignment of Angkor with far-flung monuments across the globe. These cracks in the narrative invite alternative possibilities, some cautious and archaeological, others bold and speculative. The inheritance hypothesis, one of the more conservative alternative theories, is that the Khmer inherited much of Angkor's infrastructure from an earlier civilization. In this view, Suryavarman II did not build the entire complex from scratch, but instead restored, expanded, and adapted an existing site. Supporting this is the evidence that parts of Angkor's hydraulic system predate the 12th century, and that the drop in craftsmanship after Angkor Wat's completion was too steep to be a gradual loss of skill. If true, this would make the Khmer not the sole creators, but rather the last great stewards of a much older heritage, the lost civilization. Theory. A more radical proposition suggests that Angkor Wat, along with other enigmatic structures worldwide, is the work of a forgotten civilization that flourished long before the civilizations we know. Proponents point to the recurring themes: global alignments, unexplained astronomical knowledge, and advanced engineering in an age when, according to mainstream history, such capabilities should have been impossible. Could there have been a civilization, perhaps destroyed by cataclysm, whose knowledge was passed down in fragments, inspiring later cultures to build upon their ruins? If so, Angkor Wat may be one of the last and greatest echoes of that vanished world. The outsider theory. On the fringe lies the extraterrestrial hypothesis, that some knowledge, or even direct assistance, came from beyond our planet. This theory is fueled by the sheer difficulty of explaining Angkor Wat's precision, logistics, and cosmic alignments in purely terrestrial terms. While there is no concrete evidence for alien involvement, the persistence of this idea reflects the human instinct to seek extraordinary explanations for extraordinary achievements. Why the mystery matters. Skeptics may argue that these mysteries are simply the result of underestimating ancient human ingenuity, and perhaps they are right. Yet the enduring questions around Angkor Wat are more than just archaeological puzzles. They remind us how much of human history remains unwritten. Every temple corridor, every Apsara carving, every alignment with the sun is a fragment of a message from the past. We may never fully decipher it, but the search itself forces us to broaden our vision of what was possible for our ancestors, or for those who came before them. A monument that defies time in the end, whether Angkor Wat was entirely Khmer, partially inherited, or the legacy of a lost civilization. It stands today as a masterpiece of global heritage. It has survived wars, abandonment, and centuries of encroaching jungle. It has outlasted the empire that built or rebuilt it, and perhaps that is the ultimate truth. Angkor Wat's true builders may remain nameless, but their work was meant to transcend identity and era. It was designed to endure, to inspire, and to provoke wonder in all who see it, no matter how many centuries pass. The invitation to wonder the mystery of Angkor Wat's origins is not just an academic question. It is an invitation to question, to explore, to connect dots across continents and millennia. It challenges us to imagine human history not as a straight line, but as a tapestry woven with threads we have yet to trace. Until the day we uncover definitive proof, Angkor Wat will remain what it has always been, a silent sentinel of stone, holding the secrets of the past in the heart of the Cambodian jungle. a place where history and myth are carved side by side.